Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So taking out a fun and exciting episode for you guys this evening, and one that even I didn't see coming. But last week, a member of the MiSTer FPGA Discord that I know, Bitmapbilly, sent me a link to a new version of Elemental Gearbolt. If you don't know what this game is, it's one of the best lightgun games of all time with a full orchestral soundtrack and some absolutely amazing anime FMV sequences giving you the story. But the reality of this game is it's really two different games. There's the Japanese version of the game, and there is the Working Designs port. I have a copy of the Working Designs port on my shelf, and while you get the entire story in English, Working Designs up the difficulty for the North American audience to the point where the game is considered pretty much cruel and unfair in my opinion. Trying to actually see the ending of the game in a North American copy is an absolute feat. They just basically dialed up the difficulty to 15 from a 5 and just decided to release the game. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined to want to support the channel, you got a Patreon link down below as well. But the reality is, if you wanted to play a version of Elemental Gearbolt that wasn't mind-bendingly hard, you would pick up the Japanese version of the game. But the problem with that is all of the text and all of the FMV sequences were in Japanese because obviously that was its region of release. And this game has a massive ton of story for a lightgun game, and it really is an intriguing story, so you would lose out on all of that. Or you could play the Working Designs version of the game, which gave you all of this story in English, but trust me when I say it was just not a very fun experience because the difficulty could just be off the charts. Now, I love a good light gun game and I do love difficulty, but in Elemental Gearbolt's North American release, it didn't really feel like a fair difficulty spike. It just kind of felt like it was completely unbalanced. Like they just basically times 2 the difficulty across the game without giving you any buffs whatsoever. And that wasn't really uncommon back in the day. When games would come from Japan to North America, they would get some difficulty spikes because obviously as a light gun game that would sell for a full retail price, it's not going to be the longest game in the world. So Working Designs basically came in and decided they would artificially prolongate the runtime by making it extremely difficult to play. And I absolutely love this game. It basically feels like the PlayStation 1's version of Panzer Dragoon, except it is a light gun game, not an on-rail shooter where you can see your actual character on screen, but it has the similar vibes. And honestly, this sort of atmosphere, this fantasy kind of sci-fi setting, isn't something we really see in light gun games very often at all. Now, I am playing this on DuckStation, so I can use my gun for IR and enhance the visuals, but I did test this on MiSTer FPGA as well, and it 100% works perfectly fine with a controller, with a mouse, as well as gun for IR. I just really think this game looks even better when you use DuckStation to kind of enhance some of the polygons. And I am just showing you the 5th level from start to finish because back in the day, if you were playing this game, this is where it became absolutely mind-bendingly difficult. Even on the easiest setting, at least in my opinion, on the Working Designs version of the game, this was going to be a massive obstruction. It didn't matter how much you learned the patterns, the speed at which enemies would hit would just sometimes cause you to take force damage. And if you're not familiar with what that is, in some light gun games, it is impossible to get a 1cc because the game is basically going to force you to take certain amounts of damage. Players out there that try to 1cc pretty much every light gun game that exists will tell you that some games just aren't possible to do that. But the problem with the Working Designs version of Elemental Gearbolt and even the Japanese version is that when you die in the level, you go back to the beginning of the level. So if you get stuck in a death loop, you're never going to progress. But the great part about this version of the game that Bitmapbilly made is that it has the Japanese difficulty because it is the Japanese game, but all of the English assets have been put back in. So you have the cutscenes in full English, you have all of the English on screen you need. It's basically just the Japanese version with a translation patch over the top, but it's not just that because the assets have been moved around and you do get English FMVs as well, making this, in my honest opinion, the 100% de facto way to play the game if you do not read or write Japanese. And that is just amazing because look at all of the vibes on screen. This game is just absolutely stunning to look at, and if you've never played it before and you do like light gun games, I can't stress enough just how incredible of an experience this title is. And now it's just made so much better by having all of that English inside of the copy that isn't mind-bendingly hard. And I get why Working Designs did that. It was always just a little bit of a bummer. But when I said orchestral soundtrack, I meant it. This game has incredible music. Listen, and I'll be right back with some more. I meant it when I said amazing soundtrack. This honestly has a lot of Symphony of the Night vibes, and I think it's some of the best music on PlayStation 1, and honestly some of the best music in any arcade light gun game ever, even if this is a console game. There's something about the light gun genre, I just always consider them all arcade releases, even if they didn't come out in an arcade cabinet, because it really is an arcade genre. Believe me, comment down below and tell me what you think of that. I'm sure some people will disagree. Now, on the Working Designs version of this game, there was an easy mode, but it wouldn't let you see the entire game. After a few levels, I think it was after level 3, it would send you back and tell you to go to normal or hard difficulty. And that, again, was just an obstruction. And I'm sure some people are going to comment and say it wasn't that hard, and that's totally fair. But for the large majority of people, this has always been a game in the English version that people just kind of thought was way too difficult. Reviewers talked about it back in the day, and that was just something that Working Designs did more often than not. And again, I can't stress just how amazing this game looks, whether you enhance it or you play it on a real PlayStation 1 or MiSTer FPGA. All of the art, all of the design, all of the aesthetic and colorways you see in this title are just wholly unique and completely different than pretty much anything else. Again, I do kind of see some Panzer Dragoon influences here, but on PlayStation 1 that obviously wasn't a series we got, so it really is one of those things. It just kind of stands as being such a unique release, and it's not like there are a metric ton of light gun games out there either. Sure, PlayStation 1 was probably the best console for light gun games, but it is still a very limited genre pretty much compared to any other genre out there. Racing games, fighting games, platformers. Light gun fans absolutely love these releases, and getting a new version of it is just so amazing. And whether you play it on DuckStation like I am now with the enhanced visuals or any other console, if you've never played this game before, I can't stress enough just how good it is. The light gun combat is amazing. It'll work with the gun con, it'll work with a mouse or controller. This is the type of title that really felt special back in the day and still does. And I remember when I first picked up my copy of Elemental Gearbolt, I do not own that copy right now. I actually traded it in, but I picked it up again like 15 years ago, and I remembered the same thing I remember when I was a kid. The game was too damn hard, and it always drove me nuts because you don't want to play the same level over and over again, especially if you die right before the boss or right during a boss battle. Having to go back and play 4 more minutes hoping that you can last long enough to get to the next stage drives you a little bit nuts. We're not talking about the sort of Bloodborne or Demon Souls difficulty here, where it kind of feels like a challenge and you really do want to just keep poking at it. We're talking about the difficulty which kind of just makes you want to turn the console off and play something different because you weren't having that much fun. And again, I'm sure some of you out there are going to say it's easy and I just suck at it. Well, I've been playing light gun games for a long time, so I hope you do take my opinion of difficulty at least at face value. And as we go through this desert plateau area here, again, massive vibes as far as Panzer Dragoon is concerned. I see so much of it in this game, and I mean that in the best way possible. And this is just a labor of love from Bitmapbilly, taking the Japanese version of the game, putting in as many English assets as could fit, and letting it rip. And it does come with an incredible story with some awesome animations as well, so go ahead and watch, and I'll be right back with a bit more.
I'm sorry I've been away so long. I haven't forgotten my vow. I will avenge your death. Your murderer shall pay for his actions when I empty the life from his grotesque carcass.
Sire, the second excavation research unit at the Guate Mountains has been destroyed.
Is the cause known? Was it the Republic?
Unconfirmed reports indicate that the Republic was not responsible.
Then who is responsible?
It seems to be 1 or 2 armored individuals.
Only 2?
They are said to be armed with incredible weapons and headed to Owato. The king wishes to consult with you immediately regarding this disturbing turn of events.
I see.
Pretty good voice acting for back in the 90s, and obviously here it is in full English, and if you played the original Japanese version of the game, it would clearly be in Japanese because that is the spoken language where it released. So Bitmapbilly came in, put every single English asset into the game, and kept that Japanese difficulty because this is built off the Japanese version of the title, and that is just absolutely incredible. I think it was sorely needed, and it's not like this is a first either. There's so many Working Design games that get air quotes unworked, basically changing a lot of the things that Working Designs did and making it slightly different. And I'm not saying that Working Designs wasn't an awesome publisher. They brought over so many games out of Japan that we never would have otherwise seen in North America, so they definitely get a lot of credit for what they did. And I'm sure there was a mandate maybe somewhere that the game had to last for at least a certain set amount of hours to make sure that the publishers and everyone else got their money and the returns weren't happening. That's how you end up with a game that got some maxed out difficulty and can be frustrating to play, but today that's 100% taken care of. I will leave a link in the description description below where to find this. If it becomes a patch, right now it's just a fully built file, and that isn't something I can share with you currently, but I'm sure it's pretty easy to find. But short of that, we're done. Definitely play this game, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.